Well, warm welcome to our esteemed participants who have joined us today from multiple regions. Welcome, everybody. I'm Shiba Harma, Regional Gender Advisor for UNICEF in the Europe and Central Asia region based out of Geneva. We're very pleased to collaborate with the Asian Development Bank's Gender Forum and to be with you all today. Today's session that you've all joined in is a knowledge lab, and we will be aiming to share learnings from UNICEF towards the topic of building an equal and innovative STEM girl force for the 21st century. And this will be covering our work across Europe and Central Asia, East Asia and Pacific, and the South Asia region. Now, the session will also engage in an interactive format with girls and mentors from countries like Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Nepal, Vietnam, and Kyrgyzstan. And we will also hear insights from one of UNICEF's key private sector partners, Clete Pobote, on the shared value, role, and importance of private sector engagement in advancing girls' skills, strengthening education for employability pathways. We will also have open floor Q&A at the end of the session, so you can use the chat function for this purpose. And during the session, key resources will also be shared in the chat. And all participants are, of course, requested to kindly maintain your audio mute function, and the session, as you can see, is recorded as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So today's knowledge lab is in 3 components. We are now moving into the first component where we will share the context around girls' skills, STEM, and their transition to employment, the Skills for Girls portfolio in UNICEF, and we will look at sharing lessons learned and the way forward for UNICEF in our new Gender Action Plan for 22 to 25. Next slide, please. Yes. There are an estimated, when we look globally, 600 million adolescent girls worldwide, where we look at them as potential for future leadership and as change agents. However, we know that, particularly in developing countries and in our region that we mentioned across the 3 regions, they are disproportionately lagging behind, or they're excluded from their continued education and their skills building opportunities. We also know that before the COVID-19 pandemic, girls were significantly less likely than boys to be enrolled in skills and training opportunities. The pandemic has obviously compounded this crisis for us. So when we look at the data, as you can see, more girls in the age group 15 to 19 are neither employed nor in education or training compared to boys. And when we look at those enrolled in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, for example, in Europe and Central Asia, 32% or 41% in South Asia are women. So there's a huge gap when we're looking at the gender issues in this area. And what are the key issues that's fostering this? We have child marriage, burden of household chores, gender-based violence, low value for the girl child, lack of an enabling environment, lack of mentors, career pathways, and significant gender norms and inequalities across our regions that are sometimes some of the key factors that continue to limit opportunities for many girls, both in school and in outer school settings. Next slide, please. Thank you. For UNICEF and our partners, when we work, Skills for Girls is a global effort to enhance better programming and investments to equip girls and young women with the knowledge and skills needed for their work pathway so that they can successfully transition with their education with greater skills, confidence, and overcome the barriers that prevent them from fully participating in the workforce. Now, what we need to do is this requires us to expand the emphasis on early learning, skills acquisition, and alternative learning pathways, as well as ensuring that there are safer and more supportive school environments to better reach the most marginalized, provide against child marriage, early pregnancy, gender-based violence, etc. So all of this will also require that UNICEF and our partners, we continue to reimagine education as we go, including through the new digital delivery platforms and innovation that respond to the current realities that we are in, especially with the pandemic. Next slide, please. So in building this, UNICEF, we've identified 4 categories of skills necessary for children and adolescents for a successful transition from education to employability. These include skills that are foundational, transferable, job-specific, as well as digital. So when we look at STEM education, it is an integrative approach aiming to increase the understanding of how things work or how to improve their use of technologies. Now, those are foundational and job specific skills. Support the development of skills such as problem solving, innovation within the context of real world challenges and problems. Those are transferable skills. And they open opportunities for students to develop skills such as adaptability, complex communication, social skills, management, and systems thinking, which are, kind of very, very important life skills as well. So next slide, please. And when we look at the process of empowerment, the empowerment of girls is a key factor in this pathway. And UNICEF's definition of empowerment is that we have four interlinked components here: critical awareness, building assets, agency, and voice or participation. So for Skills for Girls programs or skill building initiatives, these are inherently an asset building approach. However, we know through our various programs at the country offices level that building skills alone does not make an intervention and empowerment approach. It must not only build assets but also we are seeking to shift the balance of power that we have. So increasing individual agency, for example, or critical awareness, voice and participation. So from our ground experience, we learned that when we work on empowerment programs, we are looking at four issues here: increasing assets, such as improved skills, social networks, financial capital, self-esteem, and confidence. When we're looking at increased levels of critical awareness, we're talking about an awareness of the rights for themselves with knowledge, with confidence, awareness of major issues within girls' own countries, and improved aspirations. We're looking at increased agency, such as positive changes in girls' mobility within communities, or freedom from violence, or access to information and control over their body as well. When we're looking at increased levels of voice and participation, we're looking at access to girls' participation and engagement in their own communities. So the sphere of empowerment is very critical when we are looking at skills building programs. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yes. So now when we're looking at our Skills for Girls programs, we have been working through four strategies, which is putting girls at the center. What we mean by that is meaningful engagement of girls in the design, implementation, monitoring, and learning of our skills programs, and focusing on skills that are positioning girls for equal participation and transition to employment, including in STEM and participation in creation of digital technologies, social entrepreneurship, transferable skills such as problem solving, negotiation, communication, all of that, but also tailoring approaches to their needs, including safe spaces, mentorship, internships, access to technology, leadership development. Sharing learning insights and fostering new partnership models is also helping to expand the collective impact that we can harness in this area of work as well. Next slide, please. So recently in 2020, UNICEF and FHI 360, we actually conducted an evidence review of the implementation and evaluation of our skills building initiatives for girls. Now, what led to that is the review looked at what works best at the ground level, and it actually emphasized many of the areas that we had already noted, such as it is very important to ensure girl-centered engagement and a safe space that is inclusive of all girls, ensuring that the skill sets are very specific, contextualized, and they have access to mentors and role models. And there are opportunities for girls to lead and impact social change, supporting their leadership. So these are some of the key areas which, from the evidence review, notes what works best at the ground level. And as we go through the presentation, you will also see in the chat box certain resources that are being shared as well that you are welcome to take a look at a later stage. Thank you. Next slide, please. So now, as you can see on the screen, we are spotlighting some of our country programs across the three UNICEF regions covering East Asia and Pacific, South Asia, and Europe and Central Asia. It's not an exhaustive list of programs that we cover, it's just a few examples to highlight. So as part of the UNICEF Skills for Girls portfolio that I mentioned earlier, the programs in Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, China, Laos, beyond, with digital literacy, alternate learning pathways, mentorship, career counseling, job shadowing, apprenticeships, teacher training, and system level improvements. Right. And there are country programs, as you can see, that are also outside the portfolio, making significant advances in this area of work. So, for example, girls' skills in STEM programs are active in all of Central Asia and across the Europe and Central Asia region, where, just like other regions, this is a key priority for advancing gender transformative results. Similarly, for South Asia and East Asia, where there are major initiatives, as you can see, from Sri Lanka, Maldives, building teacher training and mentorship programs for girls. We also have, for example, Indonesia and India. There's a program supported by Unilever Dove, providing life skills, body confidence, and self-esteem, and 21st century skills, including digital skills for girls, including also teacher training. In addition, we have the Oki Period Tracker app, where girls receive age-appropriate sexual reproductive health information and also learn digital skills at the same time. These have been developed with girls in Indonesia, Mongolia, Papua New Guinea, and in 2021 expanded to Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Nepal, and India. These are just a snapshot of some of the programs and the coverage that we have across Central Asia, South Asia, and East Asia and Pacific. And you will also see certain links in the chat box where details have been provided. And you can also reach out to us for further information with regards to some of these programs. Can I have the next slide, please? So in summary, with reference to the country programs, our key lessons learned is that, one, designing and implementing with the engagement and participation of girls and young women actually pays off, and it is really kind of the best way forward in designing and implementing skills programs. We also learned that multiple delivery channels or alternate pathways need to be established to reach the most remote girls in rural and after school settings. So one solution that can work in one country context may not work in another, and it has to be tailor-made with alternate learning pathways. Flexible, adaptive, and innovative programming is therefore necessary. And we also learned that continuing to increase providing girls with real-life opportunities is very, very effective. And we need to give them more than STEM and digital skills. So technical skills must be combined with life skills, and system-level improvements are essential for sustainability. We also learned that mental health, safety, and security of girls must be considered, especially as they navigate digital spaces. So safe online space and navigation is extremely important here. Inspirational sessions, practical tips, role models, and mentorships are extremely vital for girls in this space. And most importantly, a good and reliable partner that is with you as an asset for scale-up, outreach, and sustainability is very crucial. But we also notice a learning gap that few skills programs are actually targeting girls in refugee settings or migrant girls who are on the move or girls with specific needs and disabilities. Next slide, please. So as UNICEF, we now start to implement our new Gender Action Plan 22 to 25. You would see a link in the chat box, focusing on transformative results for gender equality. We will ensure that we continue to have dedicated efforts for girls in skills and learning opportunities in STEM, but also continue to have broader efforts that are required across all of our three regions to shift those harmful gender norms, stereotypes, and barriers with regards to girls' empowerment. And UNICEF will continue to invest in overcoming the gender digital divide through the development of ensuring that digital learning solutions are inclusive, there is enhanced connectivity, access to resources and equipments, and accompanying safety measures as well. We will also be promoting girls' leadership, voice, and agency in the system level, for example, at the education system level, where girls can be a catalyst for their inclusion and participation, including supporting innovative and safe platforms and spaces, both offline and online learning. We will also be looking at building girls' skills and capacities to lead and influence change, voicing their opinions and be empowered, as well as working at the system level with teachers, looking at pedagogy and the very essential curriculum change that is sometimes needed in certain contexts to remove stereotypes and barriers as well at the system level. But our work will also ensure that our implementation will promote accountability among stakeholders and institutions and making sure that there is systematic inclusion and participation opportunities for girls being provided. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So in closing in 2022, with regards to girls' skills, STEM and digital enhancement for UNICEF, we will be prioritizing and working on expanding and scaling some of the already existing programs that we have, especially leveraging and replicating successful models. We'll also be looking at joint advocacy and awareness for girls STEM with partners regionally and globally. And we will also be looking at avenues to accelerate our partnership, engagement and investments with private and public sector stakeholders who can join us in this effort. Next slide, please. So colleagues, thank you for kindly listening. Here are our contacts. You can see on the screen for each of the gender advisors in our regions to reach us. And with this background setting that I have provided on our UNICEF programs and lessons learned in the area of girls' skills, we are now moving to the second segment, which is an interactive panel with girls and mentors, moderated by Mahamona, Regional Gender Advisor for UNICEF in South Asia, based out of our office in Kathmandu, Nepal. Maha, the floor is yours, and we'll have the slide up of the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiba. It's such a pleasure to be here with ADB and with colleagues, really sharing our knowledge of what works for girls. Today, we're going to hear from girls STEM leaders, and we're very lucky to have Zita Salim, 16-year-old young girl from Jakarta, who's joining us. She's currently in high school, majoring in social science. She has an interest in music and art and has history as her favorite subject. She has an aspiration to advance her public speaking ability and pursue a career as a political analyst. She's hoping that in the future, there'll be more opportunity and representation for young girls in STEM field to be able to develop their skills without being discriminated against in the work field. Zita is one of the female participants from the UNICEF Indonesia 21st Century Skills, Digital Skills and Entrepreneurial Program, Digital Innovation Challenge. We also will be hearing from Zania, who is also 16. She's a participant from the first phase of the educational program for girls building and launching nanosatellites in Kazakhstan. Zania loves science and the creation of new mechanisms, discovering new fields in engineering, science, and technology. She also loves fashion, and it inspires her to find beauty in the world in the smallest of details. In the future, she wants to combine engineering with a sense of fashion because she thinks that mechanisms are astonishingly beautiful art objects. She's eager to create something fascinating, something charming from the first sight of eye, and still useful and impactful for humanity. We also have our mentors with us today. And so we'll first have the discussion with the girls in STEM and then with mentors, but let me introduce the three mentors today. We have Benita Sresta, who's an IT engineer and a STEAM educator and a founder of Women in STEAM organization. As a STEAM and data enthusiast, she's been leading STEAM programs, including workshops, projects, and content development using STEAM interdisciplinary approach to double the female participation in computing fields in partnership with UNICEF and with many CSO organizations. Ms. Dao Tiha is a co-founder of the educational technology company OMT that provides popular school management platforms, School Online, Kids Online, and Center Online. Ms. Ha has over 25 years of experience in business development, startups, and leading teams, resulting from her years of working in multinational companies such as Dell Corporation, Hewlett Packard, and then becoming a management consultant and tech entrepreneur. She serves on the board of the Vietnamese NGO CFC Vietnam, promoting children's rights to access quality education, in charge of partnership development. Mrs. Zada Kormileva is 25. She's a mentor of STEAM for Girls. It's a program in Kyrgyzstan that has coached a group of 12 girls to get real life experience in the technological profession. Zada works as a safety specialist at logistics company Arvaran Cargo. Azada started her career in telecommunications in 2017 as a specialist in the call center of Sky Mobile Limited. She was promoted to staff development and training specialist in just 4 years. Azada holds a BA in economics from Kyrgyzstan University in Bishkek and is currently enrolled in an MBA in Osh University. So we're going to start our panel, and as I said, we'll be hearing from our girls in STEM. And we're really curious because we've been talking about the gender digital divide since the morning in this ADB Gender Forum. And we know that there is a gender digital divide that girls experience when they try to access the internet or online spaces and devices. And we've heard about the lack of opportunities to systematic changes and gender barriers as well. So we'd like to hear from you, your insights on how we can support girls from going from dreaming to achieving the STEM skills to facilitate their entry into the 21st century workplace. Zania, can we ask you to speak first and then hand over to Zeta next? Over to you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for participating here again. So in my opinion, I think that girls should be able to learn anything they want to, like they should not feel any limits hitting them back from the knowledge, especially in the era of digital development, like when the information wave is huge. I think being restricted is an overwhelmingly huge disadvantage. So I wish to help women all over the world to find their ways to learn about STEM, like even being able to learn and participate in some process projects and some development is really wonderful. So for instance, I find my passion in learning artificial intelligence, and I surely think that having the ability to reach knowledge is a huge factor in my personal growth. And I wish I could help other women with that too.
That's great. We're there for you. We agree completely. So important. Zita, what about you? We'd like to hear from you. What are some of your internships, your real life opportunities to break into this field and be involved in the private sector?
I think I would just like to start by saying that unfortunately STEM itself is still stigmatized as a man-dominated field. And of course, there are some ways for us to actually help adults and girls in achieving what they want, what their dreams are in STEM. First, of course, education. It can come in many forms like socialization and perhaps scholarships, of course, for the girls that are not able to afford school. And there's also another thing like internships. I think the private sectors has already given the big opportunity for girls to actually join them and prepare themselves for the work field in real life. Overall, from my experience, I think as a high school student, we also need support from teachers along with female mentors in order to develop more relevant skills for the 21st century. And perhaps they will also guide us to be able to find our passion, whatever in whatever field, in STEM, literature, arts. And I think I'm lucky enough to be able to join this digital innovation challenge in the past, along with my girl teammates. So we actually planned a better future than before, like what we had beyond our vision.
That's so great. And we agree. I mean, having role models, having mentors, having internships is such a key. And we're so lucky to have 3 mentors here with us today. We've heard from Zita and Janaya about being part of the solution and the practical work that has to happen, the real life opportunities that need to be created, and the importance of female role models. So I'd like to hand over to our speakers who are mentors, who have had experience. Can you speak about your experience in Vietnam, Kyrgyzstan, and in Nepal, about successful programs that have worked for girls? And how can mentors support girls in their journey to higher education and the transition to jobs in STEM? So first, let's hear from Ms. Ha. Ms. Ha? There may be a technical issue now. So let's hear from Aizada. Aizada, can you talk to us a little bit about your experience in Kyrgyzstan? Aizada, you just have to unmute yourself and then we'll be able to hear you speak.
I'm really sorry. Okay. Hello, dear participants. I'm really happy for this opportunity to talk about my experience with STEM for Girls initiative of UNICEF in Kyrgyzstan. And it was my first experience as a mentor. And as a young woman, I could easily relate to the reality of adolescent girls from conservative communities, where I also come from. And first of all, these girls needed to be inspired, motivated by the examples of young women from similar backgrounds as theirs, and who managed to make career in STEM. And I think that I was such a role model for them. And secondly, as a mentor, I needed to work with their parents, address their concerns with regards to mobility of girls attending meetings and safe transportation and shared responsibility of parents for girls. And thirdly, it was important to create a safe space for girls to speak out. I gave them tasks to develop the public speaking skills, communication, and critical thinking. And these aspects were really important in addition to career counseling and other things related directly to the mentorship program. And I told them about STEM professions, introduced them to my job as a safety specialist at logistics company, and organized visits to several universities in the city of Osh. And at the end of the mentorship, I was really happy to be a witness to the fact that the girls who were shy and closed, they defined their goals and enrolled in various courses and started to learn languages, new languages for them, like Russian, English, Korean. And the girls I mentored, they began investing in themselves, their knowledge, skills, and in their future.
Wow, amazing. It's so great to see universities as partners, part of the community and facilitating, the movement from school into higher education and from higher education on to employment. Thank you so much for sharing that, Aizada. Ms. Ha, are you able to speak now? If we can try your mic. Yeah, we just have to unmute and then we'll be able to
yes, that's true.
Welcome.
Welcome, and I'm sorry for the glitch. It was such a big honor for me to be with the panel today, and so powerful to hear from the girl as leaders in terms of promoting STEMs to girl students. For my case, actually, we had a really great day 2 days ago. 20th of November is the Vietnam Teachers Day, and it is a big celebration. You can ask anybody from the ADB and the UNICEF office in Vietnam, and they can tell you how big the celebration of the teaching profession is for Vietnamese. And I'm so privileged as well that for the last 5 years, I have been working as a mentor, first of all, to the female STEM teachers, and then to the STEM high school students in both Hanoi, where I lived, and across the country, thanks to an UNICEF project. And this work has given me tremendous joy to see the resourcefulness and the quick mastery of the female teachers and female students once they get the encouragement and they see that actually they do as well in maths and in well, like engineering, you know, more like physics and chemistry, just like all the boys. So in the project that I'm right now working with, the UNICEF funded project titled Piloting Augmented and Virtual Technology in the 2 levels of education in provinces of Vietnam, which includes a northern mountainous province, a central highlands province, and 1 rural province in the Mekong Delta, helps me to see that the championing teachers are actually all female STEM teachers. I have nothing to say to, you know, negative about the men teachers, but actually the female teachers are actually championing that because they see such a big difference. Technology can help their students learn. And we have teachers from ethnic minorities in the northern part of Vietnam, like the Hà Nhi minority, who actually embrace both augmented reality and virtual reality technology in her daily work with her classes. And she showed us through videos how much the technology sparked curiosity and the possibilities for her students when they work on practical, you know, real life projects.
Amazing.
So we are indeed, and then we have female teachers who run and champion rural STEM clubs with girl students, and I think that is also another way of helping girls see how much STEM can help them in their daily project works at school, and also help their parents, their village, to improve things like crop production or soil fertility. So those are the things that I think gives us all the wonderful things that makes us believe in the power of girls and female STEM students.
It's great to hear about the female STEM teachers who have made girls shine and the contributions that girls can make in their communities with the skills that they're able to gain. Benito,
Sure.
let's hear from you in Nepal. We'd love to hear how you became a mentor, your experience with mentorship in this field. Over to you.
Namaste, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today and hear from girls and mentors. So coming back to your question, the key elements that we focus on are firstly to collaborate with the local actors, which includes the local government, educational authorities, and CSR organizations for the effective service delivery. So we are currently also aligned with Plan International and European Union, and we realize the impacts of these local actors can be huge, as they play as a mentoring roles for the local people and for us as well to take our cause forward, because they know the geography, they understand the people very well, and which will be an added advantage for us to focus on human-centric approach. And secondly, what we do is majority of our programs that we intervene at WeSTEM is to connect the next generation goals with the existing educators, mentors, and role models. We all know that STEM fields as the few female role models. So the main idea here is to bring out the local stories of women who are relative relatable. And the reason that I'm using the relatable word here is because a successful woman from NASA or any other recognized agencies might not influence the girl from a remote geography with gender and digital divide. So the native girl from her place succeeding even for secondary education or basic education can be very inspiring. So this is what we have been doing, and this is what we have found out in our gap analysis. And therefore, we are also creating the role models at WeSTEM, where we hire girls, we groom them on the STEM, skills, and then they are currently involved into the production activities. They do research, they develop contents for girls, and they later travel to distant places to mentor or train girls or the targeted beneficiaries, with the hope of connecting our mentors or being themselves mentors for the less privileged girls.
Thank you so much, Vanita. And it's been such a pleasure to have you as a mentor in the community of action that we've organized throughout South Asia. You really, really are a mentor. Thank you for sharing that, all three mentors. Let's go back to the young girl, the young women, the girls who are our STEM leaders in their own fields. We'd love to hear from you about a project, an example, or an activity that you've done that really sparked your passion for STEM. And we'd love to hear from you about how you would like to continue your career, your studies in this field, and what we can do to really support you. If you can share a message that would inspire other girls to pursue their career in STEM and the digital world, what would that be? Zanya, let's start with you this time. Love to hear from you.
Okay, so I like that I'm honored to be the first one. So I actually have a huge experience in that field. I launched the whole satellite with the team. So I participated in the phase of educational program named like UNICEF, launched by UNICEF Kazakhstan with the Al-Farabi Kazakh National University. So the course covered like the stages of creating a spacecraft, starting from engineering, then shifting to creating a design, programming the soft, assembling, testing, and final launch. I remember the 20 girls aged from 14, I was 14 then, and the oldest one were 35 years old, participating in this project and acquired technical and soft skills. So we learned a lot of teamwork, presentational skills, we did lots of speeches. And in October of 2020, we successfully launched this one. And it was a huge event. So this year, UNICEF Kazakhstan, in collaboration with UNICEF's office, is going to start their project in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, and I'm really happy for that. And so I remember I have learned a lot about like how building things with myself, with my own hands. And it was just like entering in the factory. It was a huge thing. So the most important, I found an opportunity to grow. Literally, it helped me to keep my track by presenting a result of hard work. It literally shows you what you can achieve by your hard work. Despite any gender stereotypes, our team performed a delightful project. And that actually lead my enthusiasm in learning the skills. When you achieve something, you see how your hard work pays off. You just think like, I have to go more, I have to do more, I have to work. And now I'm working on my own project. I want to explore more about artificial intelligence because it was a thing that I worked there, and develop my future in that field. I think that the skills I have learned, I have gained with UNICEF are really hard and like different life situation. They helped me a lot, I think. So since everyone on the team was really like different, We not only like our age, but the way how we thought, the way how we presented the project, the way how we see. It was so interesting to work up with them because lots of opinions makes lots of work. And every day was just bursting of opinions, of decisions, of ideas everywhere. It was coming to me. And I was thinking like, girl, you have to, you have to come up with some idea by yourself. I was looking the way how they were working. We were sitting in this office for about, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours a day. And everyone were working. Everyone knew what exactly they did, what they wanted, what they needed to do. And it inspired me a lot. So I remember how Jana is the oldest in the project. She's one of like the most experienced one in the field. She works with like spacecraft, with space industry. And she helped me a lot to understand the way how we're going to launch a satellite. Like she told me we have to go somewhere out of a city, not to harm people with the satellite like coming down. So she really helped me a lot. I remember that, and I'm really thankful for her. Long story short, studies in STEM require certain abilities of a person. Like girls should work hard to achieve their goals because there's no easy way of getting the knowledge. True. However, I think like some ideas to make the process of studies, I do have them. And first, just don't forget that there are no gender boundaries in science. Like there is nothing harder and worse than the gender boundaries in 21st century. We are developing, we are rising up these things. And then don't be afraid to encourage and challenge yourself. New horizons are always there for you. And if you're afraid to open up, like how you're going to find them. And then just be brave. If you want your ideas to be listened up to, you have to talk. You have to raise your confidence and you need to be heard. So there's things that I wanted to tell here, and I think you got the message.
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for that. Really, really inspiring to hear girls working on artificial intelligence and being so motivated and motivating one another. Zita, would like to hear from you. What's been your experience? How can we help?
Oh, well, actually, at first I didn't have any interest in pursuing STEM because I was more interested in arts and literatures. And if you ask if I do have a role model in STEM, no, I would probably say no, but I do have a role model when it comes to being a feminist and activist in gender equality, and that is, some of you might know, Emma Watson. What sparked my interest in STEM is while I was developing an app with my team, because of the situation around sexual harassment, and also how people are finally aware of why this act is actually really disgusting. My experience in participating in skill building program, I'm able to create a digital solution from a real existing problem while also developing another skills on the other hand, like I'm challenged to think out of the box, and I'm exposed to new topics outside of my study in school. And I also had to challenge myself with time management, juggling between study and also the program itself. But overall, the program is really enjoyable, and I also learned how to be committed with the craft that I'm making. Also, I met a few amazing mentors along the way, and they guided me through. And I'm fortunate enough to actually develop how to use programming languages, visual designs, financial projections, etc., etc. And in a way, I also learned about management and entrepreneurship skill. I'm planning to pursue my tertiary education. I'm going to college after I graduated from high school, but personally, I would like to strengthen my public speaking skill ability more, and the support we need, adults and girls, including myself, with similar skill building a program which will benefit our future, of course. And not to mention for adults and girls that are lacking financial support, a scholarship program will help. And my message to the girls out there that are actually interested in any field, not just STEM, please just do it. Just do it. Don't think twice about how people will think about you being in that field, or you thinking that, oh, will I be alone in this learning journey? Because no, we all need to believe in our girl abilities and their potential. And we also need to check out and also work on how we can support them further, not only their gender or their backgrounds. And as for young people who are like familiar with social media and has a digital native like me, we can also use social media like Instagram, TikTok to perhaps expose our ideas and develop our skills, because perhaps people can potentially help us and get support and exposure we need to expand our ideas and solution to benefit other people.
Zita and Zanya, thank you so much. So inspiring, so inspiring. Yeah, I mean, JavaScript, CSS, and learning the programming tools and being able to use those so confidently, really, really inspiring. Let's go back to our mentors. You've heard some really good examples from inspiring girls in STEM, reaching their goals, reaching remote girls, reaching girls out of school is often a challenge. And so from your perspective, if we were going to think about investing to scale up initiatives for girls in STEM and be able to reach the most vulnerable, the most marginalized girls, both in the education system, but also out of the education system, where do you think we should be investing? Benita, can I ask you first? I know you've been traveling recently and in very distant areas in Nepal. Can you give us what your plan is for WeSTEM and how you're making a difference here in Nepal?
Yeah, sure. Talking about WeSTEM, our organization, we used to be a small organization and our impacts were limited back then. And all thanks to UNICEF for supporting us in all ways possible to spread our programs and reach the most marginalized girls. So in 2020, even though traveling to communities was not possible due to pandemic, so at the same year, we encountered the existing digital divide in our country. So we invested our efforts. If the girls are not reaching to us, then we can reach to them. So, which is why we started working on content production to take them to their places. So we also invested on research and donor pitching and other like preparing our girls educator at a time when the schools are closed. And we also collaborated with UNICEF Rosa and Code.org for localizing the out of court contents in Nepali language and also trained our educators. So what we are doing through our STEM Ahead project that we are currently running at Women in STEM, supported by European Union and Plan International, is to reset the education system with the STEM approach to basic education. So, which is done currently in Dolpa district, one of the most rural district of Nepal. So traveling to Dolpa was one of the most challenging and scariest thing that I've ever encountered. I feel so scared and uncertain with this project, if it might work or not, because the environment was completely different, completely new. Geographically, there was a lot of challenges. There were language barrier, cultural barriers, and there were massive digital divides. So I even could not call back to my family to tell them about my travel updates. So what I feel is understanding the place is very important even before working for girls, which is why we did a gap analysis and we came across a lot of things We thought of taking an initiative like setting off the female maker spaces, which is an open space for native females to learn and explore about STEAM at the rural municipalities, where our educator girls and team members are educating the local educators at Dolpa district. And so another most fascinating thing is that what we are doing is as we train the local educators, they will be going back to their own rural municipalities, and they will also cascade train the girls, students and dropouts.
It's so great. Great to hear these innovations to go from Kathmandu to the most remote areas. Really, really exciting. Ms. Ha, Vietnam is a hub for tech initiatives for girls. Can you tell us some of what works in Vietnam?
Yeah, well, indeed, Vietnam has become both a manufacturing and R&D hub for many big tech companies, including Apple, Samsung, Intel, and I think the country in general, we are gearing up the preparation of the workforce in order to just to service those, employment, interesting and very high impactful employment opportunities. But to be honest, majority of the tech work opportunities still go to boys and men, not really to women. And I think here in Vietnam we have seen three things that have been working. First of all is the consistent communication all the way from the top, meaning from the government and big respected organizations like UNICEF and the UN in general. Secondly, grassroots organizations, bottom up, mobilization of those bottom up activities. And third, exactly what Binita and Zeta have been talking, scholarship for girl students, community girls STEM activities. So consistent, messages from the government saying girls can do this. Ministry of Education now has a female vice minister, and she really champions it. The female director of UNICEF Vietnam, she herself, champion this, and it really makes the message heard. From the local grassroots level, we have in Vietnamese we have Hội khuyến học, which are the community education promotion association. Normally it is like family and village run organization with all the elders there, promoting and giving small scholarship to girls and boys in the community when they do well at school. So what we do is we have incentive to the associations to make them give a little bit more incentive to girls when they do well, and to girls and boys when they do well in STEM. Yeah, and that actually helps. And I have lastly, but also most importantly, is also on the specific girls focus in STEM scholarship from big IT and tech corporations like Samsung, Intel Vietnam, the Rockwell Automation. Zeta is nodding; she knows Rockwell Automation. So that works in some cases with UNICEF, in some cases by themselves, going specifically dedicated girls STEM in the scholarship. And that actually the scholarship is important because it shows a role model, and it makes media say, okay, this is the right way for girls, especially from the more disadvantaged category, groups, to see and say that, okay, this is for them to try and to get it and to really change their life. So those are some of the few stories from Vietnam that we have seen working. Lots more to be done. Yeah. However, I think that is what have been working, and we should continue what we are doing.
Yes, yes. And Zaida, you also are looking at internships and apprenticeships and scholarships. So interesting how you're right, Ms. Ha. There are similarities across the Asia, South
other
Asia,
countries.
and Central Asia. Yes. Azada, do you want to tell us what in Kyrgyzstan, what you've been able to do with scholarships and internships and the programming support that you offer?
Yes, thank you. I worked as a mentor from March to June this year, and I did it during my free time as a contribution to the society. And during this time, a lot of work has been done as part of the mentorship program, and it was really useful for the girls, but extremely useful for me as a professional from a private sector. And I think that mentorship programs should be considered as a part of sustainability and community engagement strategies. And such programs, they really help motivate the team. And in my own example, I have gained a lot of motivation by seeing how girls they open up, develop their skills, and start pursuing their dreams. And not only motivation, but also I have reflected a lot about how I communicate and express my ideas and deliver the messages in a clear way, like understandable for adolescent girls. And I learned to be patient and help them analyze their feelings and the girls. And I also improved my skills of handling the difficult conversations with their parents, with the girls' parents. And all of this experience, they have strengthened my emotional intelligence. And it is clear that my experience and skills that I have gained through this mentorship program, they will be useful in my for my organization too. And another aspect is that in order to grow the private sector, companies can start investing in their future workforce and clients also. And by supporting and investing in adolescent girls, and helping them to choose the profession in STEM fields, we we can improve the quality of future employees. And for example, within the framework of the mentorship program, I organized excursions to the universities of the city of Osh, exhibitions and career affairs in STEM areas. And the girls really liked these events, and many of them have decided to enter the university and pursue their professions from the field, from the STEM field, such as architecture, arts, and IT. And I'm really very grateful for my experience with STEM for Girls initiative, and I'm inviting other women from business to join the group of mentors.
Thank you, Azada. That's so inspiring. I think you've all made such important points across the mentors and girl leaders in STEM. It really does take an entire community: government support, community support, family support, support of girls for other girls as well, private sector. And we'll hear now, as Sheba takes us to the next session, the really important role that private sector can play in opening up space, encouraging girls to dream their full dream and make it a reality. Thank you all very much for sharing your experience, sharing what works for girls. We'll come back shortly with questions and look forward to having more discussion with you a little bit later. For now, we're going to hand over to Sheba and hear from Cledepo Pute. Over to you, Sheba.
Well, thank you very much, Maha, and what a wonderful, inspiring session with Girls and Mentors. Thank you so much. So we are now going into the last segment of this Knowledge Lab, which is an interactive discussion around creating equal and innovative partnerships for girls, STEM, and empowerment. And we are pleased to have with us today one of UNICEF's key shared value partner from the private sector, from Clede Pobote. And I'm delighted to welcome Ms. Mitsuki Hashimoto, Deputy Chief Brand Officer, who will also be with us till the end of the session. So Ms. Hashimoto, we are very honored to have you with us today. And would you please introduce and share a bit about CPB's partnership with UNICEF, an example of how CPB and UNICEF partner, a few highlights from the partnerships to date, perhaps. Thank you.
Sure. So thank you, esteemed colleagues, partners, and audience. I am Mizuki Hashimoto, Deputy Chief Brand Officer, Clede Pobote. It is a pleasure to be here and speak alongside girls, mentors, about the importance of partnerships and the role of businesses in advancing girls' empowerment and skills everywhere. Since 2019, Clede Pobote has partnered with UNICEF to transform and empower the lives of hundreds of thousands of girls, overcoming gender barriers that limit their aspirations, opportunities to fulfill their potential. Our partnership with UNICEF spans widely across regions as part of Skills for Girls initiative. We are reaching girls, teachers, mentors, peers, and parents in Bangladesh, Kyrgyzstan, and Niger, among other countries and regions. In the past year, where the global COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the lives and education of millions of girls, we witnessed how UNICEF continued to reach girls where they are despite lockdowns, school closures. For example, by real-time adoption of skills trainings and curriculums to online and virtual formats, using various technologies to reach the most vulnerable girls. Thanks to the joint efforts with other partners supporting the Skills for Girls initiative, in 2020, around 150,000 girls were reached with activities focusing on STEM education, digital literacy, social entrepreneurship, internships, mentorships, and integrated life skills. For example, in Bangladesh, Clede Pobote supports UNICEF in developing a gender-responsive school curriculum, breaking gender stereotypes in skills-based learning and implementing an alternative learning program for vulnerable adolescent girls, linking them to skills and employment opportunities through apprenticeships in their local environments. In Kyrgyzstan, through the program STEM for Girls, we support girls to pursue professional education and career in STEM. Girls have been trained to be role models and peer educators for younger girls in their communities, and peer trainers are now hosting their sessions online, reaching even more girls and inspiring them to pursue new skills and knowledge. The girls are also introduced to one of the mentors, local women successful in business, science, and technology, who provide career counseling and empower them.
Well, thank you very much. That's indeed very good to hear how the partnership has been getting engaged and involved. So as a corporate brand, Ms. Hashimoto, could you share with us Clede Pobote's mission and goals for gender equality in STEM, and what is really the brand's role in collaborating and supporting with girls and young women to advance their skills and talents in STEM, and how do these values really align in the shared value partnership with UNICEF? Thank you.
So Clede Pobote's brand mission is to unlock the power of girls and women and women's radiance. And in this case, radiance means inner confidence, a power to change themselves and also the society around them. So our vision and corporate responsibility goals are aligned with UNICEF's mission to achieve equity in education, advanced skills for girls, and gender equality everywhere. Clede Pobote aims to transform the lives for the next generation of female leaders. We need girls and women to grow and innovate in our organization and of the business and markets we work with. Therefore, diversity and equality are core in our business model and gender equality and inclusion are drivers for success in our corporate KPIs, financial outputs, and revenue. And by partnering with UNICEF, we amplify our internal corporate commitments by reaching girls where they are in their life and career pathways. As a corporate brand, we feel a strong commitment to help shaping the skills girls need in their future jobs in the private sector. For Credible Bote, not only STEM and digital skills will be required in the future, but also transferable skills such as confidence, teamwork, and leadership are foundational for girls, critical life skills that are cornerstone for UNICEF Skills for Girls program.
Indeed, thank you so much. And so that's a very inspiring corporate commitment indeed. So could you then give us some examples perhaps and experience on the ground, and what do these experiences really mean at an internal level for staff engagement and the value it creates for you internally as a brand?
Okay. So creating awareness among our employees and involving them in UNICEF's activities are important to create meaningful bonds between staff across the world and with the girls we support. The first example, last month, a Credible Bote field visit was organized to UNICEF's program in Kyrgyzstan, where more than 130 staff from our offices joined to learn about the program. We observed the impact and the meaning the activities have for girls, teachers, and parents. And for instance, Tan Schuler, a 15 years old secondary school student, told us, in this project, I've achieved a lot of things. First of all, I've selected a profession that I want to pursue in the future. I was able to get knowledge and experience, and I believe that the project has also allowed me to find who I am. The second example, Credible Bote leads a flagship initiative to promote girls and women in STEM, the Power of Radiance Award. Every year, Credible Bote honors a female role model who has made a significant difference for girls in her community. Actually, today, Benita is present here, and she's one of the awardees of our Power Radiance program. So this year, we are pleased to award Aliona Kachenko from Kazakhstan for her work expanding STEM and digital learning platforms for girls in her country and beyond. So this is some of the examples.
Indeed, thank you so much, Ms. Hashimoto. These are very inspiring examples. And we are actually reaching the end of the session, and it's been wonderful to hear your perspectives from Credible Bote and the collaboration with UNICEF. And in closing, it would be good if you could share with us perhaps a few insights from a private sector perspective on collaborating across sectors for girls to gain the skills they need for the future. So any particular insights and remarks or message from you from private sector that you would like to share with ADB partners who are on this call and event with us today? Thank you.
Yes. So Credible Bote sees the catalytic impact our investment have in the partnership with UNICEF and with girls and for the next generation. We appreciate being part of the journey from designing the program to consulting with girls and hearing their feedback. And we want to support the transformation of bringing girls' talent and leadership to the forefront and translating their skills into jobs and careers and facilitating their empowerment. To all partners here today, let us not wait, bring our resources and capacities together. We have a huge potential in adolescent girls globally. Let's work with them so that they can reach their full potential and take their rightful place as leaders and contributors in our world. Girls need access to STEM and digital skills, transferable skills to transition to empowered personal lives and empowerment. Leveraging our resources and strengths, together we can form and build skills needed, help shape career pathways, and break gender stereotypes in learning and working environments. Creating strong partnerships for and with girls, skills, and empowerment is a win-win. Coming together, empowering girls, and sharing girl values that are equal, inclusive, and innovative will make the world, businesses, and economies grow and prosper. And let us work together to expand and support a future generation of female leaders.
Indeed, thank you so much, Ms. Hashimoto, for that powerful message and continued partnership from you that is vital to take some programs to scale and to reach girls at large. And it's been a pleasure from UNICEF to engage with Claire Devote. Thank you.
Yes,
We're now moving to open floor. Thank you indeed. Open floor Q&A, and we welcome any questions from our audience to any of the panelists and discussions so far. So please use the chat function. I can see that a first question has already been raised to UNICEF Girls and Mentors. So maybe Maha, I'm going to flag this because this is the panel that you had with Girls and Mentors. How do you ensure that girls' opinions and attitudes are heard in the programs and initiatives they're part of?
It's really interesting. Maybe we can hear from one of the mentors about that. I heard Benita speaking about the human-centered design. Perhaps she can start, and then if somebody would like to help us answer that question. Also, maybe the gap analysis helps us to see what the girls themselves are interested in doing.
Yes. So, so in order to ensure the opinions of girls are heard, there are a few ways that we can do. Firstly, to organize the events in that way that we accommodate their feedbacks, their opinions. So either in terms of feedbacks or allowing them the space to make sure that they can have their opinions can be one of the things. Other way, what we can do is to have the open discussions. The two-way interactions might be the most effective one, so that we can hear their opinions, about what they are thinking, and also solve or try to provide some solutions which can be very helpful for them. And having said that, everyone have their own way of struggles and journeys. So what they can do is take a reference from our journey.
Thank you so much, Benita. Azada, you work with the university, and so if you have any insight there, how we listen to girls. And then I'd love to go back to Zita. She made the really good point, that it's important for us to listen to girls, and then we can go to Zanya after that. Over to you, Azada.
Okay. You mean university meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. There are a lot of mentors from our university who are from the STEM field, like teachers, and they have their own mentees, and there were my mentees, and in during our meetings, they did have chance to share with their opinion, to we try to work on their developing their soft skills, so gave them opportunity to share their opinion freely, and share with their worries about their choice, their profession, and like this.
That's great. I think that's where meeting girls where they're at, as we've just heard now, is so important. Zita, you said, let's listen to girls. Let's give them a platform. Let's hear what they say. Zita, how has that been facilitated where you are? And then we can go to Zanya and then come back to Shiba. Zita?
So how our opinions can be heard, I think one way in the program, we would always have breakout rooms since it's online, and then we would discuss with our mentors along with our teammates about what kind of solution that we're making. But on a larger scale, I think outside of the program, I think social media actually helped us in terms of actually expressing our opinions. Although there are some restrictions, since there are still rules, not spreading hate speech, all of that stuff. But in regarding of expressing ourselves and actually giving opinions, it's easier because there are social media. We can always tag an official account, for example, like UNICEF, or perhaps in this case, if it's an Indonesian case, we can always tag KPAI, and then we could always share with others, and then perhaps others can help as well when it comes to gathering opinions. I think that's all I have for the answer.
Breakout rooms and social media, that's great. Good advice. Zhenya, did you want to jump in and suggest how we can be better listeners and really understand where girls want to have investments made? And
actually, I was really thinking about this question. Like, there's no way to 100% be sure that the results are like correct, and it's pretty hard because nowadays, especially in social media, there's lots of fakes and leaks. But all we have to do is just to rely, because we don't have another options for now. And hopefully in the future, society will be able to clarify this for us. Since we see a lot of results today, especially like we see lots of people, and especially girls, achieving their goals, it means that the whole STEM for girls is actually working. However, yep, there's no 100% assurance in that. Yeah. I'm sorry for making kind of dark, but
it's true. You gave a real good reality check. Yeah. We are in a stage with the pandemic where we can't mobilize meetings. We have to rely on social media. We have to be safe online. So thanks for that. Thanks for that reality check. I'm going to go back to Sheba, and then maybe we can hear from Ms. Ha for the next question. Back to you, Sheba, for the next question.
Thank you very much, Maha. Indeed, we have the next question that I'm looking at the screen is, what are some examples of the specific value UNICEF can offer when working with private sector partners, and for example, in terms of reach and evidence, influence and expertise, and perhaps I could offer some insights, and maybe Maha, you may want to step in as well. As you know, I think when we look at UNICEF's work, businesses have a direct and indirect impact when it comes to children's issues or rights, or as UNICEF, when we look at quality healthcare or nutrition, or access to education, or whether it's clean water and sanitation and all of those issues, businesses and private sector have a huge role in terms of finding solutions and helping with what can be done at the ground level as well. So they have scope of operations in place. They have the power to do change in a positive way as well, to have some good solutions at the ground level that can impact future generations as well. So I would say that UNICEF, we have a good track record in terms of our convening power, our collaborative space, working with successful partnerships. We also heard this wonderful partnership that we have with Kyrgyzstan and also with other stakeholders in the area of girls' skills in STEM, but also partnerships with government, with civil society, working for girls' empowerment, and investments, I think, from partners and together with UNICEF creates a multiplier effect for us, so that we can scale our investments, we can bring our collective voice, our advocacy, we can expand reach and impact as well. I mean, a couple of flagship results and initiatives come to my mind, which I've already mentioned in today's call in terms of skills for girls. But we also have Generation Unlimited, we have Equals, we have more partnerships that we are engaged at the global level as well, and in regions. And I think I would say that, from if we look at promoting girls' empowerment across multiple sectors from a life cycle, we are the only mandated UN agency that does indeed program from a much broader perspective. So I think with support from partners, and going back to the question, we can indeed, as part of UNICEF, further reach scale and amplify some of the existing initiatives that we already have on girl skills. For example, we can reach more vulnerable remote girls in rural locations with impactful programs, and also influence government and influence the national level, influence labor sector reform as well, perhaps in this particular case, having gender responsive interventions in career progression, and also document best practices as we have been doing as well. So let me close here and see if Maha, you have any inputs to add, and then I will check if we have any further questions as well. If not, we can go to session close. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there may be three areas that I would highlight. One is just the learning that can happen across regions, as we're seeing today. I've learned so much from the girls in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, and experiences in Vietnam. So I think, having that global vision is important. The second is really being able to work with women's organizations and girl-centered, girl-led organizations like the Scouts, like universities, like WeSTEM. In Maldives, we have Women in Tech, which is helping girls to have internships in the private sector. With Bhutan, we work with girls' spaces, youth spaces, and BTOP. And that's also, as you said, brokering that relationship between girl-led initiatives and government, and bringing in private sector as a partner in that discussion. And then third, I think it's really important that the skills, as you said earlier, really span the education as well as learning out of school context. And that's where private sector can come in terms of really supporting organizations on the ground, as with the Power of Radiance Award, recognizing good work and helping us to model that work so it can be replicated across the world. So I'm just wondering if anyone would like to make any other responses. Ms. Ha, if you'd like to maybe speak about the partnership with UNICEF and any of the private sector, since you're on the board of organizations as well. And then back to you, Shiva.
Speaking from a country level, I think, and speaking from a private sector perspective, I think UNICEF brand name these days is a huge brand, especially for countries like Vietnam, because the first doses of vaccine, of COVID vaccine we received was from UNICEF, through UNICEF. And all the time since last year, UNICEF's name is always on the national TV's front news, because every time that a cargo of vaccine comes to Vietnam, it would normally comes with the brand of UNICEF. So that is a really big leverage for private sectors, and also from NGOs who work with UNICEF, because it carries a lot of significance and the brand recognition, and lots of respect for the work that UNICEF is doing for the country in general. I'm working in my organization, we are working with UNICEF in education, but when we say, oh, we are doing an UNICEF project, that demands that shows the people say, oh, okay, that's the organization who is doing so much good for the country, especially during these times. And I think because we work with education, so indeed sharing and like multiplying knowledge and good practices is an important part of what we do. And I think UNICEF in this sense is doing a very good work in Vietnam, where we are included in different thematic groups where things are discussed and like consulted, and also in multinational across regions initiatives. For example, we got to hear about the digital public goods library from UNICEF, and from that we actually got some very good ideas and connection to about initiative that we can replicate or like scale in Vietnam. And I think that is actually very powerful, because without those knowledge, there is no way that we would be like working only at a country level. And now we have a chance to, whatever we do, it might have an impact beyond Vietnam. So I think that is, and normally, a small NGO won't be able to do that by itself, or even in the network with other small NGOs. So that is a very large launching pattern. I don't know how to call it, but basically
That's
that is,
it.
a
That's
very good
beautiful.
way to make
That's
what
great.
we work well in Vietnam, or somebody is doing a good work in other countries, that we can replicate to Vietnam. For example, I'm already chatting with our friend in Kazakhstan and ask whether the satellite project can be in some ways replicated in Vietnam. Hopefully one day we can do that. So
That's great.
I'm
We
talking
have
to
to thank-
Jania.
We have to thank ADB for also spurring
Indeed.
partnership. And Shiba, it's actually been amazing working with ADB on looking at green and blue jobs in the region, bringing girls into the 21st century skills, STEM and technology innovation, to be able to really address climate change and come up with solutions for their communities using innovation and technology. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Maha, and thank you, Ms. Dow. And I mean, this is a very, very interesting response as well, with what we need to do even more. And I think it also comes into the next question, which I understand is probably the last question that we have received in the Q&A, is, how can UNICEF support girls and women when transitioning out of the education system and into the job market? And to help them in that process, and what are some of the areas of work and policies that UNICEF has in this area? Let me try to take a look into that. I'm also conscious of the time, and then we can see if any other colleagues would like to come in. I would say, well, thanks colleagues for raising this question. I would say that a growing number of UNICEF programs are developing the technical and vocational skills of older adolescents, and also as they transition into the workspaces. So these programs are delivered in, as we heard today, in secondary schools and technical and vocational training, online, non-formal skills training, or on-the-job apprenticeships and all that. So those are programs that are taking place. And there is a process we go through of preparing young people for the transition from education to employability, where young people have access and they can develop the skills. And we already noted some of that in terms of the foundational, the transferable, the digital, the knowledge, competencies, the qualifications, all of that are required in the labor market and to secure and retain, and so they can actually thrive in a productive space as they transition to decent wages and decent employment, and they're adapting them to an evolving economy, if I can put it that way. So this process of making the actual transition, where young people are then going into that space and able to use their skills and effectively, is something that we work with. And therefore, we also work with the private sector, in that labor market space as well, to really make sure that policies and standards are conducive and are equitable, are inclusive. And one of the areas that we promote is the family-friendly policies. For example, when we look at women in the workplace as well, to redesigning the workplace of the future. It's become even more prominent with COVID and the pandemic, and how it's actually impacted with household chores and burden of care and all of that, that has impacted women who are increasingly dropping out from employment. So these policies will be transformative. It will bring shift in role in household level, but also within businesses and in the labor market, to empower women in the workplace. So we are increasingly, partnering with other like-minded agencies and organizations also in looking at these set of policies, looking at paid parental leave, for example, with young children, supporting breastfeeding initiatives, spaces for that, making spaces, workplaces, and wages more affordable and kind of accessible. And there are quality childcare benefits as well. So these are some of the initial things to respond to the question that has been raised. And I do wonder if colleagues would like to say something. And perhaps we also have Ms. Hashimoto on the call, who also works for CPB, is very progressive when it comes to gender equality policies. And Ms. Hashimoto was also one of the first, female leaders as well in the Shiseido chain. So I wonder, Ms. Hashimoto, whether you have any remarks here in terms of how businesses can promote, gender equitable policies at the workplace as well. Over to you.
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, in my case, I think I was very lucky, to be in this position. But I guess, I mean, specifically in Japan, I think, we are trying very hard to promote women to be, in a more, how should I say, in a higher position in the corporate hierarchy. And I think Shiseido is probably one of the most progressive company in Japan. I think it's also due to the characteristic of the industry as well, because we are mainly dealing in the merchandise which are very specific, retargeting women, especially. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why we're having this kind of tendency in a company. I'm not sure whether I'm answering the question right, but.
No, thank you very much. And indeed, we are seeing in this post-pandemic building forward better that many companies and organizations are looking at good practices to make sure that family-friendly policies are really kind of taken forward, and we do look at companies that can really work with us, and also with ensuring that kind of less women are dropping out from the workplace as well. Okay. So I think with this question, unless Maha, you have something to answer, but I was going to go into the close wrap, because we are coming to the close of our time. And maybe I can give you back to you for any closing remarks from you before we wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiba. Thank you, colleagues, for these really, really important comments and suggestions. A really practical knowledge session where we can learn from one another, and we're able to implement programming that's going to work for girls, by girls. And I'd like to close really with just highlighting something that I heard this morning on the ADB Gender Forum, and that is the importance of lifelong learning. We often talk about introducing tech for girls as adolescents, and really strengthening that transition from secondary school to university and to employment. But the truth of the matter is that the investment has to start from early childhood education and development. And this morning there was a very good forum discussion on that, really breaking the gender stereotypes from childhood, from infancy, and really creating a space for girls to have opportunities, to have dreams, and then to help them realize them with real important skills from the start. Some of our programs with Lego, looking at really being able to build skills, and then with advertisers, so that we're really able to break some of those gender stereotypes. The second, I really was interested in the importance of the private sector. We have colleagues on the phone, on the call from Yuha, India, where we've been able to mobilize millions of girls and work very closely with government and private sector to really help with that transition and the skills to employability in the 21st century, looking at blue and green jobs, looking at orange and yellow jobs, really looking at the spectrum of jobs that are available and ensuring the girls have equal opportunities and have equal skills building opportunities. And then finally, I think it's just been amazing to work together across these three regions, but then also to listen to girls. We just finished a webinar series with our looking at adolescent girls with a bolder agenda as we go forward. Shiba, you mentioned our 2018 to 2022 agenda, or we have a gender policy to 2030. And really, as we aim for those SDGs to be realized, we have to factor in girls and support girls to really contribute in their communities and in their societies. So over to you for closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Maha. Indeed, very well said. And all that remains for me to say, to thank ADB, our participants, our panel with girls, mentors, Zania Seta, Ms. Dao, Aisatha, Ms. Hashimoto from Pobote, my colleagues Lucia and Rui behind the planning of this entire session, and also the entire ADB team. But I also just wanted to add that, advancing girls' skills in STEM and digital empowerment is a priority for UNICEF. So, we are very geared up in this area of work because girls' education is a vital force. And we know that it's not only does it change the lives of girls, but it has a ripple effect when it comes to improved health, households, stronger economies, creation of new generation of leaders. So it has a really strong impact in our communities. And for UNICEF, when we look at our gender action plan, it calls for a stronger and a closer engagement with partnerships as well. And I do want to emphasize that because with ADB, the message that we also want to leave is that, we have corporate partners, social entrepreneurs, innovators with the know-how and with resources that can help address some of these obstacles that girls have in advancing their skills in education, where we can also team up together to turn ideas into action and to take it to at scale as well. So we have a number of promising initiatives that can be taken to scale across the three regions. We look forward to working with diverse multiple stakeholder partnerships as well, because different industries, different sectors bring comparative strengths and expertise as well, where program expertise comes together, or as Play de Probote and other partners are working in offering internships and training and entrepreneurship programs for girls, supporting with high-level advocacy, but also in governments where you are engaging in countries can actually advocate with governments for skills development or advising ministries on an inclusive workforce. And the fact that, what kind of skill sets are most important in a particular country for the economy to grow, and why it needs to be inclusive and include women and girls as well in that process. So when we also look at the labor market, for example, the standards of practice that need to be even more gender responsive in key sectors. So there are multiple ways where partners can work together through a system strengthening model, if I can put it that way. So message is, any participants in the room who would like to know more and get engaged and involved, how to reach us as well within UNICEF, but also thank you for ADB for, inviting us to your first gender forum. And it's been an honor, and we look forward to also continuing to work together for greater gender equality results, especially in some of the topics that we have been discussing today. So thank you very much, participants and everybody, for this opportunity. And we wish all of you a very successful gender forum with ADB. Thank you.